Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today I'm delighted to welcome an actor, author, filmmaker, and activist who's definitely on the rise in Hollywood. He's produced groundbreaking plays, thought-provoking films, a book entitled COVID Letters, and has his own production company, BLACKMAIL Productions. His latest film, called WhyVelvet Jesus, will be premiering in September. It's a hard-hitting and gut-wrenching narrative that explores issues of addiction, sexuality, and emotional turmoil. He draws upon the personal traumas he's experienced in his own life to fuel his activism and creativity. And he's a strong voice in the ongoing dialogue about what it means to be a Black man in America. I'm honored to welcome Spencer M. Collins IV to our show. Spencer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Uncle Harvey. I am excited to be here.
Yes, we should tell our viewers that I do consider myself your Uncle Harvey because you're the son or the nephew that I never had and always wished I had.
Oh, man, that makes me feel great. And you are definitely my uncle. So I couldn't be happier to have you and to be on the show. Thank you so much for carving out the time for me to be here and to do this.
My pleasure. Spencer, you grew up in Boston and you moved to California after graduating from the Savannah College of Art and Design with 2 bachelor's degrees. And your initial plan was to pursue an acting career, wasn't it?
Yeah, my initial plan was to pursue acting when I moved here, but I got into HIV and AIDS activism after discovering how high the numbers were in the African American community. One of my mentors, Charles McWells, who coincidentally is the author of WhyVelvet Jesus. He is one of the first people that I worked with in HIV activism and at Minority AIDS Project, MAP. And after working there, I was like, you know, the world has a whole lot of actors, but it doesn't have a lot of people doing this kind of work. So I'm going to take a little break and some time out to dedicate to doing that work.
One of your acting gigs was in a play called Loving Him by Pichanda Dubose, who appeared on our show earlier this year. In my opinion, she's a powerhouse of creative energy. I consider her a dear friend. What was it like to work with her?
It was a good experience working with her. She's definitely a creative. She's very passionate about what she does. I know people think she bites off more than she can chew, but that lady can chew a lot. So if she bites it off, she gonna chew it. She gets so caught up in the art of doing everything that she gets swept away in that. And if you're not a creative like her, you won't understand where she's coming from with some of the things that she does. But I totally get her. It was great working with her. I watch her do some of the things that she's doing, and I just say more power to her. I'm in support of everybody out there who is allowing God to use them and to use their voice, because it's not easy as people make it look. It's very hard. It's very challenging. And so anything that I can do to support her or any other artist, I'm always there. So it was great. The piece that she did was brilliant too.
Yeah, I think she's one of the really big up and coming directors like you who are going to make a huge difference in the world. And I want to ask you, what made you decide to get into producing and directing?
I just felt like enough of our stories weren't being told, and they weren't being told authentically. And I remember when I started doing stage plays, there was a young man, or it was a group of young men that I used to take out all the time to see productions, because I think that performing arts are so important. Like, there's so much that we can learn through performing arts that we normally don't take in other settings. So I think we can use performing arts to change the world, because people like to be edutained. They like to be edutained. What I mean by that is you can educate somebody if you're doing it through entertainment, because you have a captive audience then. People are watching you, they're listening, they're paying attention. So just drop little nuggets and trinkets in there, and it'll stick with them for life. And so when I took the group of young men, there was a young man by the name of Robert Howell, who asked me, why don't I see more positive representations of who I am as a gay man. And I said, because you haven't wrote it yet. And lo and behold, he went away for 2 weeks. He came back to me and he had a whole script done for a play called Can God's Love Reach You in the Dark? And we went everywhere trying to find someone to produce it. And because of the subject matter, no one wanted to touch it. When we went to the theaters, a lot of people didn't even want us to perform it there because at the time, that was 2010, at that time, you know, the whole gay Black Christian thing wasn't a big conversation. And this was a play about a young man who was dealing with his sexuality in a Christian-based home. And so because we couldn't find a producer, I decided, you know what, I'll produce it. I'll direct it. And I just got bit by the bug. I had directed before, but I had never directed and produced at the same time. And so it just woke something up in me. And then I decided like, hey, this is what I need to be doing. And I definitely need to be doing it for the LGBTQ community and the brown LGBTQ community, because our stories were always a parody and it's always a joke, but there's so many levels and so many stories out there to us that people haven't seen yet. And I wanted to be the person to tell those stories and to show those levels. So that's why I started doing the directing and producing.
I love the use of the term edutainment. That's exactly what you do. You educate and you entertain. And
Yes.
yet you produced a TV series called Trace about a group of strangers that are mysteriously linked to a series of murders. You also appeared as a police officer in one of those episodes, didn't you?
Yes, I did. That
And
was actually written by my partner, well, my business partner. Let me be careful with that word. My business partner, Anthony Bond. That project was amazing to work on. And it was his idea for me to come in as a cop. He gave me the lines. I didn't know it was going to be that many lines. I just wanted to do a cameo appearance, but he's like, you're an actor, so why not get in and act?
And then you directed a film called Party and Play, a comedy thriller about an obsessed Beyonce fan who's pushed to the
Yes.
limit. That must have been a fun project.
That was an extremely fun project. Samson McCormick is a gay comedian, I guess I can use that term, or same gender loving comedian, but he is a part of the LGBT community. And he's been an out comedian for a really long time before it was the popular thing to do. And he and I have been friends for a long time. So he told me about the project and then he asked me if I wanted to direct it. Of course, I said yes. And then it was so much fun just playing up what the beehive looks like, because the beehive is kind of crazy. But y'all don't attack me. I'm not saying y'all crazy in a bad way. They're crazy in a good way. They would do anything for Beyonce. And so it was so much fun to be on the set, though, and to just play around with that and really just make fun of the whole thing.
You recently produced and directed Love the One You're With, a dramatic comedy that follows a gay couple as they navigate the possible ending of a long-term relationship. The film explores the issues that Black queer men face in modern dating and relationships. So, Spencer, what are some of the specific challenges that Black gay men face that gay white men don't?
Wow. I think one of the biggest things that we face is just the title and what those titles mean in our community. Everybody always wants you to fit in a neat little box and for it to kind of simulate what a heterosexual relationship looks like. But unfortunately, the dynamic is not the same. Whenever you put two of the same genders together, you don't know what you're going to get. And so we have to stop trying to fit into a box, and we have to stop trying to emulate what other people have in their communities, because the dynamic is just not the same. It's time for us to start, we need to structure our own relationships based on who we are as individuals and who we are as a team. And that depends on who you partner up with. You know, I know a lot of times people think that there is a dominant person in a relationship and that there's a submissive person in a relationship, but that doesn't always work out. You know, I'm pretty dominant in my
Professional life.
in my professional life, but also just in my life in general and as a partner. But guess what? I'm partnered with somebody who's dominant. And so there's a battle that happens, you know, not that we're trying to make it happen, but I mean, all that testosterone running around in one house, you guys trying to do things, one person who's used to leading, the other person who's used to leading, you got to figure something out. We can't do the whole wife and husband thing. It doesn't work. And so we do the partner thing where we really are 50-50 partners, and decisions and choices that are made as partners.
But isn't that true no matter what race or color the couple are?
It really depends. I mean, when I dated women, I was the one who made the decisions. I was the head of the household because that's what we're told that it's supposed to be. And so I found myself making a lot of decisions. And when I dated some of the gentlemen that I dated, they wanted to be submissive. They wanted me to be in control. They were used to someone coming in and being the dominant. And that's not necessarily what I want. And I think in every relationship, there is always someone who really runs everything. Like even with my mom and dad. Yeah, dad thought he ran the house, but my mom ran the house. and I find that in most African-American families, the mom is so strong that she will allow her husband to believe that he's running it when in actuality, she is.
I think that's the whole trick to a happy relationship, is that
Yeah.
each party thinks they're in charge, but the other one knows that they're really in charge.
My partner is amazing, and he's really used to being in charge. And so it took a while for us to get to where we're at, but I think we have a nice balance where we just, sometimes he's the head, sometimes I'm the head. But most time we make decisions together.
Spencer, the projects you've worked on as a producer and director are strongly connected to issues that resonate within you as a gay Black man with HIV. Can you
Yes.
tell us how your own life experiences led to the specific focus in your creativity?
Oh, your questions are so good. It's so juicy. Uh, I really put so much of me into what I'm doing because around the time when I came out, there wasn't anybody really for me to look up to. There wasn't anybody doing the things that I was doing. There wasn't somebody who actually announced not only their sexuality, but their health status. I don't have a problem with letting people know that I'm HIV positive and that I am a same gender loving Black male who just happens to be creative and shows it in everything that he's done. Like if you look at my body of work, I would say 90% of it is something about us, the stories about us, because I just believe it's important that we tell our own stories instead of putting it in the hands of somebody else. So being who I am influences everything that I do. Writing, directing, producing, acting. I'm even really specific about things that I take on and projects that I'm a part of. If it's not showing us in a positive light, then I don't want to do it. We already have so many challenges being African-American males, but then being African-American males that are same gender loving, that's a whole nother level of things that we have to tackle. And so I hope that I do both of my communities proud with the projects that I take on. I try my best to, and I try to make sure that the stories are as authentic as they possibly can. Even working with other people, I do that when I come on as advisors to other projects.
Was your coming out particularly difficult and traumatic for your family?
Yeah. it was it was particularly hard for my mom. And I remember coming out, I thought that it would be harder on my dad than my mom. I was so afraid to tell both of them, but the person who was, I hate saying this because I don't want mom to think that she wasn't as supportive, but the person who was most supportive was my dad. When I told him, you know, he just kind of hugged me and said, now you make sense to me. And I get that. With my mom, she was in denial. She thought that it was something that I chose because of an experience that I had in college, and that I felt like I was trapped, and that's the lifestyle that I needed to live now. And also, as a parent, you always think you failed. And I didn't quite understand that until I had my own son. It's like you take on their failures like it's your fault. And I had to let go of that. And I think that now my mom has let go of that too, and realized that I'm just designed to be who I'm designed to be. And it just happens to be someone who was attracted to both sex.
Well, it took her time to understand that it isn't a failure.
Yeah, it isn't a failure, and it's not a mistake. You know, as Christians, we take on that God makes no mistakes. But then when one of our loved ones comes out and says that they are attracted to the same sex, or that they feel like they are a female trapped in a male's body, or a male trapped in a female's body, then we automatically think that it is a mistake. And I do believe that everything is by design.
You produced and directed a play that you've referred to already, Can God's Love Reach You in the Dark? About
Yes.
a young Black gay man dealing with his sexuality in a Christian household. The play was so successful that you produced a part 2. Now, these are
Yes.
groundbreaking plays. Were you pleased with the public response to them?
I was overwhelmed with the public response to them. We had one person in the audience say that it felt like he was watching the Gay Cosby Show.
Oh, wow.
What? That is a huge compliment. The Cosby Show is one of the staples in the African American community, and it always will be, because it showed the Black family in a way that we normally don't see them. Two successful parents bringing up a household full of successful kids in an affluent area that had great jobs, and it was such a reflection of my life. My mom and dad being together, they both had jobs. We wanted for nothing. No, my dad wasn't a doctor, and my mom wasn't a lawyer, but my mom worked in real estate, and my dad was a foreman for his company for several years. And prior to that, they both used to work at Harvard, you know, one of the most prestigious schools in Massachusetts. So we didn't want for anything. And so it was amazing to not only watch that be reflected on television, but then get to do it in a stage play, and to have somebody mention that, like, whoa. And then we had other people who attended who said that we need to see more positive role models like this, not only on stage, but on television. And so, yeah, I was completely overwhelmed. Just the outpour of people who DM'd me and would text me or hug me after the show and thank me for creating the space so that they know how to talk to their son or their daughter or their nephew or their niece or their cousin or whoever. You know, even if it had just been just one person, that would have made all the difference in the world to me. But to have so many people tell me the same thing, I was elated. And so was the cast members, because a lot of the cast members were straight. And so, you know, to throw them in the mix of all this during a time when it really wasn't something that was accepted, for them to take on the roles the way that they did, I just never expected it to be as successful as it was. and not even for the first run, but we've done, oh my God, we've done several runs over the years, to the point where people was asking me to bring it again. And I'm like, I don't want to do the same thing. One of the other things I always loved about the project is whenever we did it again and I would bring in new actors, we would sit down at a table read and we would take out what didn't need to be there anymore. And we would add new things and we would add new flavors. And I gave them an opportunity to play as actors, like help me do this, so that it becomes a collaborative effort. I don't want to just direct it. I want this to be a part of you guys, so that, again, so that you're educated and you learn something.
I think you better get used to that kind of public reaction, Spencer, because you're not just a filmmaker, you're an activist. And I see your new film, Velvet Jesus, as a fusion of artistry and activism. And I admire you so much for drawing much needed attention to important social justice issues through your films. This is really your mission, isn't it? To be your brother's keeper.
It really, really is my mission, just because there's so many conversations that we avoid in the African-American community. And I think it's time for us to pull the curtain back and look at those things and discuss why we've been so uncomfortable talking about them, or why we've been avoiding them, or why they're so taboo in our communities. Because on the other side of the curtain is healing. And you cannot heal from something if you don't have a conversation about it, and you don't acknowledge that it's there, and you don't acknowledge that it's hurting. It's not only hurting individuals, it's hurting communities, it's hurting families. And if we're a unit, if one of us is hurting, then all of us is hurting. And so there's just so many things that we need to open up and have conversations about. And I know a lot of my work makes people uncomfortable, but when you're uncomfortable, that's when change happens. That's when conversations happen. That's when an exchange of dialogue happens that we needed for so long. Even with Velvet Jesus, to get some of the response that we got from the audience and some of the things that were said in the Q&A sessions by heterosexual people and by the LGBT community, mothers and fathers who just, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming, but it is definitely my mission, not only as a director, but as a writer and a producer, to tell more of these stories, to help heal our community, to help create the space where we feel safe enough to have those conversations.
Do you see being your brother's keeper as a mission to educate young Black men about HIV and to help break down the homophobia and sexual misconceptions that weigh on Black men who happen to be attracted to other men?
That's definitely part of it. That's definitely a huge part of it. But just being comfortable in your own skin and realizing that even with these titles and all this, the alphabet soup that they assign to the same gender loving community, that the first thing that people see when they see us is not the rainbow on our back, but the brown and the melanin in our skin. That's the first thing that they see. So I think we need to start embracing being Black first and stop breaking out in all these little subcultures. I think that if we start thinking of ourselves as Black first or African American, that everything else is just a title. We have to embrace that part of us first, because we need a lot of healing when it comes to being just being a Black man or a Black woman on this planet. Just so much pain that we have to get past.
Something that I find so painful is that the African American community is still disproportionately affected by HIV and AIDS. Mm-hmm. We still need so much more education out there, don't we, Spencer?
We definitely need more education out there. And it's the reason why I'm doing what I do. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you could be so much further along if you did something else. well, everybody else is doing something else. I was chosen to do this. And it's a hard job. We don't always feel appreciated for the work that we do. We don't always feel appreciated for the content that we introduce to people or the conversations that we start. However, it makes a difference. And I know because, like I said, there's so many people that DM me. There's so many people that pull me to the side and tell me how it changed their life. And so as long as I get that one or two people to do that, I'm going to continue doing the work that I do, no matter how hard it is. Everything is not supposed to be easy. And this is definitely not an easy job. It's not for the weak. It's not for the weary, but it's what I was chosen to do. So I do it.
Now, Velvet Jesus has not been released yet to the general public. So for the benefit of our audience, let me say that it's a powerful drama about a young man's quest to come to terms with a horrific event that he experienced as a child. Spencer, without giving away too much, is there anything else you want to say about why this film makes such an important statement?
Again, it goes back to addressing some of those things in our community that we hide and that we don't talk about. And in this story, one of those things is molestation and why it happens. And I think that the audience is going to be moved by the story because it doesn't just look at the victim, but it looks at the perpetrator in a way that you don't normally look at them. So you're going to learn something from both of the individuals involved. And that saying that hurt people is definitely something that I would say is in the forefront of this particular production. And I think with everything, we need to start looking at things a little different and analyzing exactly what's going on.
Do you think that Velvet Jesus will be seen as controversial by some people?
I know it's going to be seen as controversial as by some people. I know even when we did the stage play, the write-ups that we got, people said it was controversial, but they also said that it was educational and that it was powerful and riveting.
And necessary.
And very, very, very necessary. And so, you know, it makes me afraid when I think about putting it out there, because I know that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to have negative things to say about it. But I also know that there's going to be a lot of people whose lives are going to be changed by the fact that we chose to tell the story in the way that we chose to tell it. One of the things that I pride myself on is that I don't do fluff. And so if it causes for the situation to be harsh and the outcome of it to be harsh, then that's what I give.
But
the
it's
reality
deep.
of it. I just want it to be authentic. And it is very deep, and it's gonna make a lot of people uncomfortable, but it's also gonna make a lot of people aware of what's going on out there and what has been going on, and the fact that we don't talk about it. There's so much I want to say that I don't want to give away what happens in the story. I would just invite everybody to watch it. You know, whether you go to the theater and watch it or whether you watch it on Vim Media, which is our streaming platform, it's a story that you need to watch. And it's done in a tasteful way where I feel like it can be something that you watch with your family and then have a discussion afterwards. We always try to protect our kids from so much, but they're already exposed to so much. So, control what they're being exposed to and start having conversations with them around what it is that they're being exposed to. Would I show this to my 6-year-old? No. But would I show it to my 10-year-old? Yes. Because I know that that's part of what they're seeing out there on the internet and what they're hearing from their friends and what they're seeing in school and even on television. Television is not what it used to be when I grew up. You know, before, if you saw a butt crack, that was a lot. Now they show the full Monty. So what are we protecting our kids from now?
I think that you're going to find that the movie is going to be monumentally important as a groundbreaking statement about important aspects of human relations, including abuse behavior, that need to be talked about in order for a lot of healing to take place. And I want you to know I'm so proud of you. You're brave, you're courageous, and you are on the leading edge of something that's going to bust wide open a topic that's been swept under the carpet for generations, Spencer.
Yeah. Yes, unfortunately, that is true. And I'm so glad that the actors dove in the way that they did, not holding back anything.
Well, on that
Ernest,
note, I
yeah,
want to ask you about our mutual friend, Ernest Hardin
yes,
Jr., who co-stars in Velvet Jesus. As you know, Ernest appeared on our show a few months ago.
yes, I saw it.
He's become a very dear friend of mine. What was it like to be directing a veteran actor of his caliber? I mean, the man is a legend.
He is a legend. It's so funny because, you know, he is the person who did the stage play, and so when we was doing the movie, of course, when you go to the next level, you want to get different actors in and you want to bring new energy in. And we interviewed so many different people and we auditioned like a whole host of other celebrities to do the part. But no one embodies this role and takes it on like Ernest, like nobody. I mean, this is in him, and he doesn't hold anything back. He just goes for blood, like in a way that
He's
I
authentic.
mean, it's so authentic. It feels so real and so uncomfortable to watch, but at the same time, he adds this humanity to who Vernon is. And you can't help but to love him and to feel sorry for him and what he's dealing with. And so that, you know, just that's one of the things I love working with the veteran actors is they're not afraid to go there. They don't care what people are thinking. They get in their method and their mode. They dig in and they just go for blood. So he's changed the way that I direct because it was a very collaborative effort from us. And for him to be the legend that he is and to be as humble as he is during rehearsals and stuff, and to allow me to actually lead him in directions and to trust me to do that, I mean, I'm honored. I feel like he's one of those actors who's been overlooked for so long. I think that this might be the project that will make people say, "Oh, wow, this dude he's really good," because he is. He's phenomenal. He was phenomenal in the stage play, and he's going to be phenomenal in the movie. And I can't wait for people to see it. He made everybody step their game up, including his co-star, Jensen Atwood, who is another amazing actor, who I think people are going to get the opportunity to see what he can really do now because of this project.
I think Ernest is looking at Oscar territory, and I'm particularly proud of the fact that when you were casting the stage play of Velvet Jesus, there were actors that turned the role down because they weren't willing to go there. And Ernest said yes.
Yeah. He said yes, and he came in. What impressed me the most about him is he came in ready. Like he already did the research. He had already looked at the script. So when he came in, he was just ready. He came in with an energy like, I'm gonna attack this. And I was blown away. I mean, we had other actors, I don't want to mention their names, who came in, even had a major actor that looked at the role. And I think we were this close to signing him onto the project, but then we realized that if he came on, he wasn't going to be able to jump in and be who Ernest was being with the character. Like Ernest is the character. He is the character.
Who were the actors and the directors that you looked up to when you were growing up, Spencer?
So Spike Lee is at the top of the list. The thing I love about Spike Lee is that he always took on, again, tough subjects that make people uncomfortable in a way that was entertaining
And innovative.
and so innovative. Like, you couldn't be mad at what he was showing you, because you're like, oh wow, that is our reality. But he did it in a way that I don't feel offended anybody. He just kind of told the truth about stuff. So he's definitely one of my tops. Sidney Poitier was huge in my house. So my mom loved Sidney Poitier, and so I got to see a lot of his work. So definitely him. Harry Belafonte. Then when you go to the new ones, I was Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson. God, there's so many to mention. Like, but those are the most impactful ones. That seeing the work that they did. Hattie McDaniels. There's just so many.
But isn't that great that there are so many?
It is great that there's so many. And I know in comparison to other communities and other races, it doesn't seem like we've had as many, but we've had some greats. We've had so many greats. And then when you think of some of the actors who started later on, like Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman is a beast, and he didn't start until later on in his career. And at first, one of the things that stifled me is I was like, oh, I'm too old. And then someone asked me, like, too old to do what? I said, I'm too old to do any of it. Like, I've started too late in the game. But they pointed out to me that he started late in the game, and look at where he's at. Look at where his career is at. Look at all of the stuff that he's done. So I took that on and I jumped in, and I just haven't looked back since.
Well, that's an interesting comment. You really haven't looked back since. You've very much taken control of your own career. You created your own production company called BLACKMAIL Productions.
Yes.
How has this independence enabled you to pursue your own artistic vision?
It just freed me from a lot of the bullshit and the excuses that are made. Having my own production, I didn't care about any of that stuff. I just kind of did what I wanted to do. And if people liked it, they liked it. And if they didn't, then oh well. I didn't have to go through the red tape. I didn't have to go through the politics. I didn't have to worry about what projects would be accepted and what projects wouldn't be accepted. I was in control of all of it.
And no one controls you.
No one controls me at all.
So do you have any advice for young people trying to break into the business?
It's going to sound so cliche because we hear it all the time, but it really is true. Whether you can or whether you can't is up to you. If you decide that you can't, then you won't. And if you decide that you will, then you will, and you can. You just have to keep chasing it. This didn't happen for me overnight. I wasn't afraid to fail, and I failed a lot. And through my failures, I learned how to succeed and how to do it better. And I'm always up for learning more. I don't ever feel like I'm at a place where, oh, no, you can't tell me. No, I want to learn more. I want to take on more. I want to do more. I want to be more. And I want to be able to give that to other people. A lot of us, we learn stuff and then we decide that, we're just going to hold it, for ourselves. If someone reaches out to me and asks me a question, if there's anything that I can do to assist them in pursuing this, I do. I don't feel like there's only a few slices for some of us. There's enough of this pie to go around to whoever wants to come in and do it. We just have to be willing to help each other. And if that person supersedes where you are, then guess what? That's what was supposed to happen. You can't control that. You just keep doing your stuff and practicing and staying in your lane. Let that person be who they're supposed to be, and you be who you're supposed to be. Everybody's walk is different.
I know a lot of people are saying that things are getting better for people of color in Hollywood, but what about for Black gay actors? I keep hearing that homophobia still rules the day when it comes to openly gay actors.
It definitely does. I don't know. There's this illusion that because there are so many of us out there working, that we're at the forefront of everything, and that we're helping to make the decisions. And it's not so much true. There's a lot of roles that I went out for that once they saw that I was a same gender loving man, they were like, well, we don't feel like you can authentically play this part. And I'm like, well, why? If it was reversed, you guys choose them to play us most of the time in a way that makes fun of who we are, and it's a parody of who we are. But we're actors. We could be whatever we want to be. I can be an all white woman if I want to with makeup. I mean, Eddie Murphy plays an all white man. If you're an actor, you can act. I can be a trash bag if I want to be. You're an actor. You can be whatever you want to be. That's why you're an actor. And so I don't understand. I don't understand when people put these limitations on who and what you can be as an actor.
Well, it's homophobia.
It's definitely homophobia. It's definitely homophobia.
Spencer, I know this about you because I know you. You're a spiritual man, but you've had issues with the church in the past, haven't you?
Oh God, I've had so many issues with the church that and my mom will be upset to hear me say this, but I'm just going to speak my truth. I don't feel comfortable in the church anymore. I'm a very, very spiritual man. I definitely believe in God, and I know that He is the creator of all things, but my dealings with the church just haven't been good ones. Not back home in Boston, not here in Los Angeles. And I can't be a part of a church where the pastor is preaching against homosexuality on Saturdays and Wednesdays during Bible study, but then Monday through Saturday, he's practicing it on the same people and with the same people that he is
denigrating.
Yeah, I was going to use a different word, but we'll go with that one, on Sunday and Wednesday. Like, that doesn't work for me. I can't receive anything from somebody like that. It just, I can't do it. And I've been a part of that. I've also been a part of the where the pastor is so busy wondering what I'm doing in my bedroom that he doesn't allow me to be who I've been the whole time for him. If I'm your armor bearer, or if I'm your assistant, or if I'm your deacon or whatever, what I do on my own time has nothing to do with you or the church. That's my time. And the only person that can judge me on that is God or Jesus Christ himself, but not you. You are human just like me. And just like I sin, you sin. Our sins are still sins no matter how you look at it. And if you think that me being a gay man condemns me to hell, then okay, then that has nothing to do with you.
So what you're really condemning is hypocrisy.
Yeah, I just can't and won't be a part of it anymore. And so it is hard for me to sit and pretend that these people that I'm sitting next to aren't judging me based on my sexuality, because they are.
You know, my son, I've heard you say so many times that you're living out loud with no regrets, no secrets, and no apologies. It was a long time coming, wasn't it?
It was a very long time coming. I mean, it took me almost 40, well, it took me longer than that. It took me 40 something years to be comfortable in my skin. I'm 51 years old now, and I have never been happier, lighter.
And more serene. I think you're serene.
Yeah, I just feel so comfortable in my skin. I don't have to pretend to be any type of way. I'm just me. I'm not, I'm not soft. I'm not hard. I'm not.
And you're not afraid.
And most importantly, I'm just not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid to say what I'm thinking. I'm not afraid to express it. I'm fully self-expressed. And that in itself is freeing in a way that I can't even begin to explain. But it also fuels why it's so important for me to continue to tell these stories. Because like I said, when I was growing up, I didn't see a me out there. There was no me out there for me to say that it's okay if I do this, because no one else was brave enough to say, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And the ones that were so far away from who I was, or a different nationality. I didn't see Black gay men out there. And if I did, they were running around in dresses. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, because you are who you are. However, that wasn't who I was. I didn't see a reflection of me out there. And so I try to be that for young people now. You know, I just try to be the best example. You know, I hear people say all the time, I don't want to be a role model. Well, you don't really get a choice on who looks up to you. So some of us are role models just because of who we are and what we do. I gladly take on the title. It's hard, you know, it's a huge responsibility, and it comes with a lot of judgment, you know, because the moment I do something wrong, then it's like, oh, well, all these people are looking up to him. Well, yeah, they are. And they have to look up to the fact that I'm a human being first. And I'm glad that my parents both taught me that it's okay when you mess up to say, hey, I fucked up and I'm sorry. And so I do that. When I'm doing something wrong, I acknowledge it. And if I'm doing something wrong that influences other people to do something wrong, I acknowledge that too.
Well, what I see is a man who has evolved to a person who loves himself and has allowed himself to be loved. You have drawn loving, supportive people around you. Your creativity has opened up because you're living your own authentic, true life.
Yes.
And I'm just so proud of you. I'm wondering what's next on the agenda for Spencer Collins.
So much. We're actually working on a few different projects at Vim Media. I think right now the biggest concentration is on getting Velvet Jesus out there. And just, you know, we do all of this work and we do it independently. And so when you're doing independent projects, the money is coming directly out of your pocket. And that is
a challenge.
Whew, it's beyond a challenge. And it affects, you know, it starts to affect our relationships, and it starts to affect the relationships specifically with our partners, because now we're reaching into money that belongs to the household so that we can get a message out there. And so, you know, what has been the biggest what's been the biggest challenge is finding ways that we can raise funds so we can continue to do the work that we do without it compromising our home. And so right now we have a GoFundMe up so that we can keep the platform going for the streaming platform, because the streaming platform is so important, because we get to control the content of what's out there and the stories that are out there being told about us. And so we're controlling that right now. And it feels great to have our own platform, but it costs money. And so what's next for us is finding ways to raise money so we can continue to do what we do without it breaking us. Because we can't, if we're broken, how can we help fix you if we're broke? Like, it's that whole thing where if the plane is going down, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you can help somebody else. We need to start doing that, because for so long we've been putting a mask on everyone else and we've been the ones suffocating. And so my business partner, Anthony Newsom Bond, is somebody that is just as passionate about this work as I am, but we need to find a different way to do it. And that is what we're working on right now.
Well, you know that old expression, if you build it, they will come. You've built
Yes.
it with Velvet Jesus. They will come. And I see huge success coming your way. It's been a huge pleasure having you on our show, Spencer. I admire you for so many reasons. especially because you speak your truth and you channel your life lessons into works of art that we can all be inspired by and learn from. I can't wait to see Velvet Jesus. I've only seen a few clips. I wish you every success with the film, Spencer.
Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that the listeners, I hope that they're watching and they want to help contribute to the work that we're doing. And if so, they can go to our GoFundMe link and do it. They can type in Velvet Jesus, look at some of the work that we're doing and that we've done and that we're going to continue to do, and just help out in any way that you can. I know a lot of times people are embarrassed to give $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever, but every single dollar helps. Give what you have to give.
And I hope people will. Spencer, I hope you'll come back to our show with every new project, because you know you have an open door and an open heart. An open door and an open heart waiting for you here anytime.
Thank you so much, Harvey. This was amazing. I'm glad that we did this, and I'm so glad that I got an opportunity to sit and talk with you in this way. I know we've had some amazing phone conversations, but this was different. Thank you.
It sure was. Thank you so much for appearing on the show. Our guest has been the amazing filmmaker Spencer M. Collins IV. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you to our producer, Steve Silver. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Remember to subscribe to the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. And be sure to check out more great interviews with Harvey Brownstone on harveybrownstoneinterviews.com.